Wow, you guys are great. Thank you so much. It's been a great time here. Hope you have a great afternoon. Thanks. I want to sing this song. Hope you enjoy it. I came down here from Edmonton. Insurance desk in the lobby was a piano. If you've been in that hotel, you know where that old piano was. And so I would go over there when the guests weren't around, and I'd play. I knew like 3 songs back then. And I played that over. And this one. Brutal. There was nothing like. Not in those days. So I would play these songs. Big Bird bought my CD. And Carol Spinney's very cool looking kind of hippie guy with gray hair, and told me about the Big Bird suit and how it works and all that kind of stuff. And I always thought if Big Bird ever died, they'd suspect foul play. So anyway, Big Bird bought my CD. It was amazing. We had a fantastic time in Jasper. We made friends that we still have to this day. We've been at people's weddings. He goes, I've got the contract for West Edmonton Mall. Really? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to train you on the entrances. I mean, you mean where everyone can see me? And he said, yeah, and you'll be training here for a couple of months. And he says, when you get this down, then you'll move on to other stuff. You know, how come it is, folks, the way that when you start to window wash for the first time, all your friends decide to go shopping? It truly ignores. And I'm washing spit and dirt and grease and head prints off for these little rap star punks that walk in with a hat on sideways saying stuff like, hey, you missed a spot, yo. Really? Can I just tell you something, a little tip? Don't ever do that to us. Because squeegees have a release here, and I can hit someone about 125 yards. Honestly, even if you're in a full run, I could get you with that. And this is a legal weapon in Canada. There's no issues with that at all. One of the things that it taught me is that I am not defined by my job. I'm not defined by what I do. And furthermore, I am not defined by my successes or my failures. I'm not defined if I have a broken marriage. I'm not defined if this happens. I'm not defined if I get fired. I'm not defined by those things. I am defined by one thing, and that is the fact that I am a wonderfully created human being with a purpose on this planet. That's it. And that goes for all of you. You're not defined by being an insurance adjuster. You're not defined by being a good or bad golfer, or someone that may have a criminal record or has done something whatever. You're not defined by those things. You're not defined by your successes. You're all amazing human beings with incredible potential in this room, and you can do amazing things in your industry, in your family, in your community, because you're not defined by what you do. So we played for thousands and thousands of people a summer. We played for celebrities. We played for everybody. And now it's over, just like that. 3 years ago, I could not get on my garage roof. I couldn't do it. My wife had to get up, put up the Christmas lights, clean out the eaves, whatever. I could not get on my garage roof. And eventually, you just have to take the step, and bit by bit. And eventually, one day, your boss, Roland, the guy in the hat, says, it's time to go over the edge. And you put on your harness, and you just step into the chair, and you go for it. And the first couple times you drop off the building, I take, 4 hours or something, and I'm so tired when I get down, because I'm holding on to dear life, you know. It's absolutely terrifying, but sometimes you just got to grow up and get over your fears. And for you, I don't know what your fear is today. I know what mine are, all the time. And I have to face those all the time. Fear of being wrong, fear of being seen as something, fear of someone finding out something. Well, sometimes you just got to get over those things. So that whole Windows thing is translated into other areas of fear in my life. So step off a building is one thing, but what about dealing with your fear of failure? So I also learned that you need to learn to trust people who are on the other end of your road. So one of the things about a good trust relationship is knowing that the person up top who has your life in their hands. I'm in the entertainment industry. I do music, I do speaking, I do emceeing, and I wash windows. Those are luxury items. Those are things you don't really need. You see, if I'm not around and I quit, you can deal with dirty windows and having no live entertainment. You can deal with it. However, in your industry, it's an essential industry. And if you quit, if you decide to walk out of it, if you're not there, if you don't fill in that gap or stand in that gap, there's an absence of hope. I'm not trying to downplay what I do, but I want to say what you do, folks, is huge for this province, because you provide hope when there's hopelessness. And he told me one thing one time about cold calls, that you can take this with you. Some of you have probably heard it, but he said, you already have no. I said, what do you mean? He says, everything is no right now. All you can do is make it yes. And once I changed that perspective, because I was always worried that I'd go and knock on the door and they'd say, no, we're not going to hire you. Oh, I got no. No, you already had no. All you can get is yes. So as you approach things in life, folks, whether it's a negative situation that you're trying to make better, whatever it is, you already have no. You might as well step into yes and see if you can't get yes out of it. Right? You ever wonder why a speaker wraps the cord around? If you just has to remove it, how many of you are just frustrated by me doing that? Just gonna do it again. Why don't you just leave it like this? Better, eh? You know, I'm cool with that. You know, sometimes we forget that we are simply fragile human beings traveling on a hunk of rock 67,000 miles an hour around a burning nuclear firewall. And sometimes we just need to give each other a break, right? Because sometimes we all think we're in control, and sometimes anger or frustration or being emotionally out of control is just trying to be in control. Who's in control if you're on a rock going 67,000 miles an hour around a fireball anyway? None of us, really. So I called Wes back and I said, what's going on? He goes, we get to play for the Queen. She's coming to the museum. We get to be the band that when she gets out of her limo, we play all the walkabout music for her. It's all this specialized music and energy music, and it's all timed out. It's perfect. I'm like, oh, Wes, that sounds incredible, but there's 100 keyboard players in Edmonton that you could call, and I know they're better sight readers than me, they're better players. I'm not trying to put myself down, folks, but it is the Queen, after all, right? You better hire the best guy. There's Tommy Banks, you can call Tommy. Any of these guys, he says, Matt, you do something they don't do. He says, I know, there's a lot of players that play better than you. I said, well, you didn't have to remind me, I told you. He said, but you know what you do? He said, you prepare, you show up early, and you leave late, and you help tear down, and I need someone like that on this job. So you may not be the best adjuster in Alberta, you may not be the best restoration person in Alberta, but you do that extra thing, you do the unexpected 5 for the client that makes all the difference, right? I spit a lot during this particular story, so I need to be ready to have enough.
Probably like Bette Midler. Did you ever know that I do payroll? I handle deductions seamlessly. I'll take your income down to 0 if you don't treat me respectfully.
For her, they did not want to talk. They did not want to connect. They needed somebody else to kind of be that buffer. It had gotten bad. Whatever happened that day, their marriage had gotten worse. So they ordered their food, and the 2 ladies went off to the washroom. And ladies, just so you know, from a guy's point of view, when you do that to us, we don't know what you're talking about in there. So maybe just tell us what you're talking about. But when you go in the pairs thing or whatever, we just don't know. We're pretty insecure. We just would like to know, or don't do it anymore. Just stop it. So they left, they went to the washroom. It was my moment of opportunity. We finished the last song, and then I walked over and I said, hey sir, I got that song, I got the Neil Diamond song. He says, oh great, you learned it? I said, yeah. He goes, great, play it when she comes back in. I said, okay. So the lady walks back in, sits down, the other lady sits down, and she's just starting into her salad or whatever had come to the table. And I started to Neil Diamond. You know the song? It goes like this. You don't bring me flowers, you don't sing me love songs, you hardly talk to me anymore when you walk through the door at the end of the day. You know it now? You're going to want to buy it after that little rendition, right? iTunes, you're all iTunes right now, please, get the better version. So that was the song, so we start playing it. And the lady turns to me and she went, you learned it? I said, yeah, I learned it. And she looks back at her husband, but he wasn't sitting there anymore, because he was standing in front of her with his hand outstretched. We had a dance floor. And so she took about 30 seconds and then she gave in, and she went over, took his hand, and they walked out on the dance floor, folks, and they started awkwardly dancing together. But something about that moment and the music, we didn't even play it that great, but it was just the song, it was just the moment. And she turns to me and tears are streaming down her face, and she mouths the words, thank you. And she's getting all red, you can just tell she's just getting so happy about this moment. And the husband, who is shorter than she is looking over her shoulder like this. It's so cute with them dancing. And he gives me a wink, like this. And folks, they danced all night. Their meal got cold. He took his shoes off. They danced all night. They had a ball. They laughed with us and joked with us. They stayed until the very end. So about 9:45, the guy comes over to me, he sits beside me at the piano, and it's playing just like this and other songs, and he said, son, we've had a great time tonight. He said, I need to tell you a story. I said, what's that, sir? He said, 10 years ago when our kids left to college, our marriage started going downhill. And it's been going downhill ever since. And he said it was almost over. And then he said, but 2 nights of your music has brought us back together again. And he kissed me on my bald head, which was awkward. And he put $50 on the piano, which I still need to tell my bandmates about. And he says, thank you. He says, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm going to tell all my doctor friends down here what a great time we had. And he went over and took his new bride arm in arm, and they walked out of that restaurant. And I hope that 10 years later to this day, that the little moment that we captured, that maybe it made all the difference. So find what's important and just anchor into that. And I hope that when you have the opportunity to give the unexpected 5, maybe not even a client, maybe there's a friend or family or wife or brother or someone in traffic that just needs the extra bit of grace that you can give them, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's a smile, whether it's a coffee, whatever that is. These things are going to make all the difference in your life and your business. I hope they're simple things, and I hope they make sense to you. They've been working for me, and I've been enjoying it, and I've also been enjoying being with you folks today. So thank you so much for having me, Rosita, and I wish you all the best.